Hello everyone, I'm Mr. G.Karthik, Assistant Professor in IT from this Institute of Technology. Today we discuss about web application security. We need to answer how is the internet organized, how do we find and retrieve pages in the internet, how is this data, web pages, etc. transmitted over the internet, how is what we see in the browser window defined as a collection of data. The web is a client or server application. Web browsers are a client which send requests to web server which send response back. Fetching pages over the internet. Architecturally, the internet consists of a collection of layers, each one providing service for one layer. The internet layer gets packets to their destinations. The transport layer sends streams of data. The application layer provides high-level services to applications such as a web browser. Fetching pages over the internet. Application layer, transport layer, internet layer, server, accused data stream packets. HTTP. HTTP makes use of TCP to open connections between clients and server and to pass the request and response between them. When a user clicks link or types of web address, the TCP connection is open between browser and server. Then request and response are sent back for both using HTTP. HTTP is a stateless protocol, meaning each request for data is dealt with isolation. Once the server sends the response, it forgets everything about the request. Fetching pages over the internet HTTP. HTTP application layer, TCP transport layer, IP internet layer, client and server. Uniform resource locators, URLs. Without a universal addressing mechanism, it would be impossible to navigate to a site and page linking not be feasible. Uniform resource locators, URLs, are used to identify web pages, basically a URL in a web address. URL has three components, a prefix, a host name, a path. Uniform resource locators URLs. Example, prefix, hostname, path. Prefix, the transfer protocol required to request data from the server. Hostname, identify a particular computer somewhere on the internet. Path, identifies a file within a hierarchical directory structure on the server. Uniform resource locators URL. Hostname, path, identify a particular computer somewhere on the internet. Path, identify a file with a hierarchical directory structure on the server. IP addresses and DNS. Every computer connected to the internet must have a unique IP address, no matter whether it's a client or server or both. An IP address is just a number that identifies a host on the internet. Example, the domain name system DNS is a database matches IP address and all. Domain name. And the domain name system translates host name into IP addresses, which are then used by TCP to establish connections between HTTP client and servers. Domain names are administered in such a way that they are guaranteed to be unique. Domain names are organized in a hierarchical structure. Top level domain DNB. Most country domains UK, AU, HT, etc. Generic traffic level. Second level domains. The actual name of the organization or service can contain letters A to Z, number 0 to 9, classes. Third levels are subdomains. Strings of character that designate different service are housed within the second level of domain. Example, www for the core main website shape or SEM subnetwork within city. Registered with HKDNR in Hong Kong. Registered with any global decision service, networksolution.com, register.com, directnc.com, etc. Registered domain names. Register a domain name can either be done directly within a registration service such as HKDNR or through a website hosting service. Either way, you have to pay a fees for domain registration that is separate from any site hosting fees you may need. Domains, country domains in Hong Kong, common for you. Linking domain name IP addresses. The domain name once registered needs to be associated with a fixed IP address of a web server on the internet. When you register and set up a new domain name, you need to enter the details at least 2 names. This name set specifies internet server that implement a name service protocol. They may improve by a web hosting service or a domain distance service. They link a domain name to the specific IP address sent for a website exam. Domain names, not just websites. Once your domain name is assigned a specific host, you can set up your run a website, set up a email account, set up a file transfer capacity. Path identifies a file within a hierarchical dictionary structure on the server. Path and path names. A path name shows the hierarchical directory structure and location of a specific file or resource on a server. A directory is represented usually the stay folder. Absolute and relative path. An absolute path is a path that points to the same location on the file system, usually written in reference to the root direction. The root direction refers to the topmost directory in hierarchy, indicated with a single slash or backslash. Absolute and relative paths. The relative path is a path that relative to the current working dictionary, so the full absolute paths may not need to be shown or referred. This work for creating websites because it allows hypertext links to be made between files related to defined working directory. This is that do not have to always reference to root directory or topmost directory on a server or computer. Absolute path. Example to hyperlink from index HTML to product HTML. If an absolute path relative path. Example to hyperlink from index HTML to product HTML. If a relative path name with company defined as the working or site root directory. Relative path to hyperlink from index HTML to logo.jpg. The hyperlink from shows at HTML to index HTML where one level is the directory hierarchy. Relative path for websites. In website development, such mode easier to use relative path. The site development located one computer after an assigned site root directory or folder is much easier to transfer and manage on the file several using relative path. Home page naming. There must be a default HTML page that is displaying as home page. In this case of city, it is mini index HTML is default HTML page with directional server. Home page naming. Web server will automatically server web page file name index.html, index.html, default.html, default.html. As long as one page file name. Web page naming, all lowercases, no space, no special character other than dash or underscore. Product.html, product.html. Server software, just connecting a computer to the internet and giving it an IP address does not make it a web server. Web server TCP connections and respond to HTTP request at Internet Information Service. Summary URL HTTP domain paths. Prefix hostname domain path. Thank you.